now at the Bucks, but
I like
it's a tough
OJ Howard
division.
if he stays down there. OJ Howard is a guy that Brady will use because uh, Bruce Arians, the scheme and the design of his offense doesn't necessarily use the tight ends, but Brady is a significant proponent on having and using his tight ends. And I mean, you saw this with 10 years with Gronk. The fact that the Patriots were able to draft and develop Gronkowski, he's basically a significant reason why they had a second dynasty. Because not only was he an electric run blocker and a pass blocker, but he was also a nightmare for teams because they just couldn't match up with him.
Greatest tight end of all time.
Yeah, I think he is. I really do.
No other tight end blocked like he could and caught like he could. Total package.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Shannon Sharp and Tony Gonzalez were probably better natural receivers, but I think in terms of the total package of being able to use them in the run and the pass game, Gronk had his injury problems, right? But he was also the kind of player that you never had to take off the field because he did everything while he was on the field. Healthy, of course.
Right. Antonio Gates, another all-time great. The thing about Gronk, though, that was so incredible is everyone always had him like this bad rep. Oh, he's a party animal. He's crazy off the field. During the season, you never heard one peep about him. This guy was all business. Belichick loved him. And,
Belichick was.
They definitely missed him in the playoffs last year.
He did.
We'll see if I thought maybe there was a chance he might come back this year or next year. He's not coming back without Brady, so we're never going to see Gronk again. But now the AFC East is really, I think both of us agree, it's the Bills for the taking. Stephon Diggs and the Bills, they're looking at this like, hey, we're about to. That's probably why they heard Brady's gone. They gave up too much. They gave up a lot for Stephon Diggs, but they're thinking we're going to win this division now. We got the Jets in here; they're weak. The Dolphins. They actually had a good offseason, and the Patriots are going to take a step back. However, I think the Patriots, they're probably still going to win like 9 games and be in the mix with things. And I don't know, even if it's Stidham as the quarterback, if they get Herbert, as a lot of the mock drafts are showing right now, that's a good fit, Justin Herbert. Belichick, he loves his 4-year students. That are over like 6'3", and Herbert just fits the bill. Going back in the Belichick always camp in the Parcells system as the Mike Francesa, and that's how Bill liked his quarterbacks, like Phil Simms, 4-year starter, and then same thing with when he drafted Romo. He likes these like seasoned guys when they come into the league.
Right.
So I think the Patriots could still be good. What do you think about, full disclosure, Joe's a big Jets fan. You think the Jets are going in the right direction here, and could they compete at all this year?
Right direction, yeah. I think in recent years, the Tremaine Johnson example being what I'm basing this off of is that we've been kind of looking to free agency where we create all this cap space and then we splurge on all these high-end guys. And a lot of times you have buyer's remorse probably after the second or third season. And I think that Joe Douglas, I love the hire as the new GM. He seems that he has this slow and steady approach where he's gonna say, okay, I have this money to spend. I'm not necessarily going to spend it, but I'm going to have it in case I need it. And now he's probably looking to the draft and saying, okay, I'm going to use this as a vehicle to improve. Again, don't want to spend on the top tier free agent guys because if you do that in the next few years, you're going to be cap strapped as you're getting ready to give Sam Darnold an extension and looking to pay guys who you drafted like Jamal Adams and so on and so forth. So I think he's taken a very slow and steady approach. I think he said to himself, okay, if I do this the right way, I took the shot because I believe I have a quarterback that I can win with eventually. But if I don't let me reword this. If I go all in the short term, then that's not going to happen.
Well, what if
So I think
they start by like letting Le'Veon Bell run the ball more than 10 times a game?
well they need an offensive line, which is why I'm okay with them sitting on a couple of the top end free agency guys because I think he's got a plan and he knows how he wants to tackle the draft. And I think this is going to be a case where we saw this with the Lions and Matt Stafford. I think Stafford's a pretty good player. I don't think he's a great player, but I think just because of circumstance, what the Lions did in the early years of his career, they had to pay for Calvin Johnson. They had to pay for Ndamukong Suh. They had to pay for certain guys along the way, like Zeke Ansah and Darius Slay. And what happens is when you encounter a situation like that where you pay a bunch of those top guys a lot of money, it doesn't leave you room to really build out the depth of the rest of the roster. So in that case, over a period of 5 years, you're really looking at 1 year where hopefully it could all come together. Whereas I think Joe Douglas, what he wants to do is he wants to build this the right way. He wants to say, okay, I got the Patriots on the way down. I have the Bills who are looking to take over the division. They've been doing it the right way. The Dolphins have been doing it the right way. I feel like if he just went and splurged on a couple of players or if he made a couple of trades, you wouldn't know where they would necessarily be in 2 or 3 years. Because, again, like I said, the Bills and the Dolphins are doing it the right way. I think he has to take that, not necessarily a long-term approach, but he has to take an approach like, okay, this roster probably won't be where I want it to be this year, but it could be where I want it to be next year if I do the right things over the course of the next, 1 to 2 years. So we'll see what happens. I think Darnold has some promise. I think he's got to cut back on interceptions a little bit. I think he's too much of a gunslinger. He reminds me of like Brett Favre or Jay Cutler in that sense. But I think you've seen a couple of games over the past 2 years, or his first 2 years rather. He played Packers pretty well and the Texans pretty well down the stretch in his first year. He played the Bills well and he won that game late in the season. And then this year, he was pretty good when he came back from injury. Well, not injury, when he came back from
mononucleosis.
From the mono.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the jury is still fully out on Darnold. I think he's got the capability to lead the league in interceptions every year. So we'll just have to see on that. But we'll see if there's an NFL season. But the NFL, they're going business as usual right now, and the other company that's business as usual right now is the WWE, Joe, and Wrestlemania is going to be show's going on, the granddaddy of them all. First, give everybody your conspiracy theory you heard about Wrestlemania, and as of now, it's going to be a 2-night event, April 4th and April 5th. No battle royals, so no Andre the Giant battle royal, no women's battle royal, and this is going to be a lot of this is going to be pre-taped over a number of days. That way they can actually have all these people in the same building at the same time to get the matches done. What are you expecting from WrestleMania this year?
Well, as of now, we have it scheduled as a 2-night event. We'll see what happens in the meantime because in the coming days, I think we're going to have some other measures put in place by possibly state governments and the federal government. And should that happen, Florida and local officials in Orlando might have to follow suit, which would obviously throw a huge monkey wrench into everything that they have planned. But for now, let's assume and continue on like we're going to have a 2-night WrestleMania, right? So I think this is a good idea.
The host, Rob Gronkowski. I wonder what he was actually going to do if it was a regular WrestleMania. We'll see Rob Gronkowski supposedly still making his debut on Friday Night SmackDown on Fox this week.
He might have been the Battle Royal. That seemed like a good place for him to start. I think it's a good idea. I mean, again, let's assume that they're going to have a 2-night WrestleMania. In order for you to really sell it to the people at home who are bummed out that they're not going to have it in front of fans. Like obviously, naturally, I'm bummed out. Obviously, I want WrestleMania in front of 75 to 80,000 people, and for them to be screaming. We are in the middle of tough times, and I'm going to be generous for whatever they attempt and try to do for us. So to go all out and to try to have Gronk come in and be his usual entertaining self and kind of add that dynamic and be a part of the whatever show that they put on. I mean, I think it's a good idea. Is it ideal? Of course not. Would I rather Gronk have been like a battle royal or something and for them to have done it in Tampa? Sure. But under the circumstances, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. And I think he'll be, personally speaking, I know a lot of people I see on like Facebook and Twitter and Reddit, they tend to naturally hate outsiders. For some reason, they look at like the WWE as like this underground band, and they don't want anybody else like intervening, which I think is ridiculous. I think Gronk will make a really good
megastar.
In Vince McMahon's words, I think he'll make a great sports entertainer. I think he's got the skill set. I think he's got the charisma. I think he has the natural likability, and people will come in to watch him. You know, he'll just be fun. You know, you need some fun sometimes. You know.
So, what do you think is going to be the two main events? I think the main event on Saturday is going to be the
Reigns Goldberg,
the big dog versus Goldberg, and I think Sunday we're going to see Edge Orton.
I think it's possible. I think both title matches will close each show. I think at the beginning, assuming like the Tampa structure of the show, because they like to spread out the matches now. You know, they'll put on big matches early in the show, in the middle of the show, at the end of the show, because that's what you need to, or else you're going to kill the crowd. So now with this setup, they can kind of build up each of the individual 4 hours, and they can start with the mid-card matches first and then build up to the main events. So because of this, now we can have Big Dog against Goldberg on Saturday night, and we could have Drew against Brock on Sunday night, which I think is what's going to happen. And I think you'll see most of the SmackDown matches on Saturday, and I think you're going to see most of the Raw matches on Sunday.
Yeah, because you know the night before, all right, tomorrow, make sure you're watching WrestleMania, and then WrestleMania Sunday. Tune into Raw tomorrow for the recap. So I don't know. Hopefully the show goes on and it's fun, but I don't know. It's gonna be a tough watch. You got to appreciate them for wanting to put the show on. But if it gets postponed, the rumor, Joe, as you pointed out, was it's going to be WrestleMania in June. That's not going to happen because, Governor Cuomo wants MSG closed to like 2021. So I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either. But so just to quickly touch upon that, I follow somebody on Twitter. It's the old front row Brian. He's a well-known MMA personality. He's always going, obviously because of his nickname, but he's always going to UFC events and other like Bellator events and stuff like that. And he's got some sources and he's got some inside information, and he's legitimately a good follow. He was the first person I saw that reported that Edge had signed a contract with WWE that was a non-Legends contract, aka he was coming back to wrestle in some capacity. So he was the very first person who put that piece of information out there, and it turned out being correct. So basically what WWE is doing is they are fulfilling their part of the contractual obligation for the insurance policy. So by agreeing to have WrestleMania in the Performance Center, it gives them a contingency plan, and it gives them reason to go up to the insurer and say, hey, listen, we tried to make this happen. We couldn't make it happen here, by and so on and so forth, right? So the MSG rumor was just thrown out there. You're 100% right. Cuomo wants the building closed until next year. But the WWE, if should they collect on the insurance money and move the date of the show, they would likely be looking at having some kind of WrestleMania sometime during the summer, hopefully, if this all blows over and we're all out and about living our lives by then.
And a lot of the online people are saying, oh, well, let's just cancel WrestleMania for now, postpone it. And how are you going to postpone these storylines for 4 or 5 months? There's other pay-per-views that are scheduled to go. You can't say, Edge is going to be like, you know what, Randy, we'll pick this up in a few months, and Randy goes on to something else, and what's Brock and what's Cena going to do? What's White going to do? Cena's probably, he's got this one date he's available. He's not going to be able to come back in the middle of any time he's going to be doing a movie. Yeah, it just won't work. It just won't work. You can postpone it, but you're gonna have totally different matches because the